How's it going, guys, and welcome to the showdown between Bretonnia, led by the Fey Enchantress, and the Lizard People, who are going to be led by Krokar. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So as far as the army composition goes, in the front line, I do have a fairly heavy core of Foot Squires. I think they're a pretty decent choice because, number one, they do have 70 armor, and as I've said in previous casts, Saurus Warriors don't have the best armor-piercing values. They have 52 weapon strength overall, which is obviously very, very powerful for a baseline infantry unit, but only 18 of that is going to be armor-piercing. So Bretonian frontline troops typically do struggle against the Lizard People, but I figure having a little bit more armor in the front line, as well as that anti-infantry bonus, is definitely going to be pretty nice. So that's it for my front line. They are going to be supported by a Grail Reliquary, which I think is very good. Dinosaurs do cause a lot of fear and terror. If we look here, even the regular Feral Bastillodon, which costs, I think, 750, it's dirt cheap, causes fear and terror. So having the Grail Reliquary, especially in a very long, grindy game, is really important because so often in this matchup, what happens is there's like one or two dinosaurs left and a couple very tattered Bretonian troops, some halberds, or some Grail Knights or things like that. So having this is like make and break, in my opinion. On top of that, we got the Fey Enchantress with the not male specifying miasma. She does have the Mist of the Lady, so it's a Mortis Engine effect, lowers melee attack, very, very good against the dinos, especially against Saurus Warriors, who one of their main weaknesses is actually having relatively low melee attack, so being able to lower it down to 23 is very good. So we have a couple groups of Grail Knights for our anti-large. So these guys don't have like super good armor-piercing values, but I think in the Rise of the Tomb Kings, they did get a buff. So they have 38 weapon strength, with 15 of that being AP. I think it used to be 12 before, so definitely not a bad choice. And they can cycle charge Saurus Warriors, and the Lance Formation, as you guys know, does not have any penalties anymore. So you're going to get some huge charge bonuses with these guys. So aside from that, I'm trying something a little bit different. Typically, I like to bring a lot of halberds and things like that in the back line, the men-at-arms with polearms, because they have very good AP. But in this matchup, I wanted to rely a little bit more heavily on my Grail Knights to do the anti-large. You can also see I have 4 groups of spearmen-at-arms with shields, and these guys are really good against the lizards. 38 melee defense, so they can hold their own in melee, but namely, you just use them to chase down chameleons and low-tier troops, and if they have to fight big dinosaurs, they do have charge defense as well as an anti-large bonus. So right now what I'm doing, I'm grabbing these 2 spearmen, I'm just going to basically chase these chameleons into the Shadow Realm, and he can waste all the ammo he wants. We have silver shields, definitely not a big deal. So you guys are probably wondering why my army looks a little bit small, not a lot of troops going on here, but I have the Green Knight. So the Green Knight also got buffed. He actually got a huge buff to his armor-piercing values. You can see he even has the armor-piercing tooltip, and I actually really like him. The Lizard People don't have too many like single-target magic spells. I think do they even have access to any? They have high magic. Well, anyways, I'll have to think about that one. But for the most part, they don't have too many abilities to really burn down the Green Knight. I know that Jabba the Hutt, like the Slans, have magic melee attacks, but their stats are pretty wimpy as is. And with Lore of Life, you can really heal this guy. But that's why I didn't bring the halberds. I was like, I'm going to try something different, get the Green Knight, see if you can hunt Krokar, go after some of the casters, and really make a difference. And he causes fear and terror, which is very useful. So for my opponent's army, front line of Saurus Warriors, not a bad choice at all. A couple Saurus Spears on the flanks to deal with Knights and stuff. I like that as well. One more group in the back. He does have a Beast Caster with Flock of Doom. Usually a solid choice against Bretonnia, just for getting rid of like hordes of peasants and things like that. And if there's a big blob on a Grail Reliquary, you can do a lot of damage. I still think Heavens might be a little bit better, but Beast is definitely not bad. A Bastillodon, he does have a laser lizard here. He's got Krokar up there. It looks like he's going to be shooting. Yeah, I think he actually tried to pop me. What was that second ability? So one of them is the Bastillodon. The other one's Hand of the Gods. I think Hand of the Gods missed because I was side strafing, which is pretty fortunate. And that's pretty much it. He does have a Skink Chief, so he's obviously just going to shoot at the Fey Enchantress the entire game. Definitely very annoying, but we should be able to endure. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now, I tried to chase the Skinks with the Grail Knights, but that usually never ends well. It puts them down to 57 when they're poisoned. So what you do, you just grab the peasants, and you can see that they're probably not happy about having to march uphill, but they're just going to chase these little bastards off the edge of the map, hopefully. 48 speed compared to 23, but hey, they're still wasting ammo, which is all good with me. So in the meantime, Saurus Warriors, obviously a pretty good target for charges. They don't have the best armor, and the charge bonus on my guys is 106. We get in there with a massive just Rohirrim charge right on top of the Saurus Warriors, and this will probably do some pretty huge damage. And, that's something a lot of people I've played against on ladder and just in general. A lot of folks are afraid to just do frontline charges like this. But if you're very good at just pulling back your troops relatively quickly, you can net some huge value. So we charge in there. You can see the Saurus take a bit of damage. This one group definitely took some heavy casualties. They're going to be down to about half health. So just huge, huge value from that charge from those Grail Knights. And then the Foot Squires are going to come in, as well as the Grail Knight, and the fighting is underway. So the Foot Squires have met with the Saurus Warriors. I think Saurus Warriors would obviously win that 1-1, but with the Grail Reliquary and the support of the Fey Enchantress nearby, it should be A-okay. So in the back, the Green Knight, the hero Bretonnia, I forget what his actual name in lore is, like Isles or something. But anyways, the Green Knight back here doing quite a bit of work. He's shutting down the Bastillodon with the Solar Engine, just kind of trolling it, doing some good work. And the best part is, though, is he's occupying Krok-Gar. So Krok-Gar, he could be dealing with my Grail Knights, chasing my Fey Enchantress, and you can also see my other group of Grail Knights, who I was originally chasing the Skink with. He's going to come and get a very good surround on Krok-Gar, as well as his Bastillodon. So getting some really good value from the Green Knight, as well as his Goon Squad back here. Krok-Gar has taken a lot of damage, too. He's actually taken about 20%, give or take. So the Bastillodon's trying to waddle away. There are some Knights, and you can see the Knights of Bretonnia coming in the back here. And I think that this point, look, that makes me feel bad. He's just all curled up on the ground, all sad looking. But that little Skink does take the initial charge. I think I was targeting him and not the formation here, which might have been a bit of a mistake. But balance power is pretty even. If anything, it might be in my opponent's favor a little bit, and the Knights do just charge across the formation. In the meantime, my opponent sitting up in the air with the Skink Chief and just targeting the Fey Enchantress just the entire game. And honestly, like from a competitive perspective, that's probably what you want to be doing. They just, despite their ammo nerf, they still have 86 ammo, which is going to last the entire game and can probably kill the Fey Enchantress after a certain point. So in the back, the Green Knight still putting up a bit of a brawl with Krok-Gar. He does pop the Cold Blood, and the Green Knight has taken some damage, but like I said, Krok-Gar is like a heavy hitter, and the fact that he's like wasting all of these attacks on the Green Knight when I can simply regrowth him is very good. So I have my one Grail Knight fighting Gary right here, and then it looks like there's going to be a Chalice of Potions coming down to break these spears, and my extra Men-at-Arms of Spears, who I brought around the flank, I just decided to engage. So here comes the charge. So I think I timed this correct. I can't remember if I just popped. I think I actually popped my own guys. So we get a bombardment. It hits those spears right just in the dome. You can see the lizards are just flying in all directions. And then the Knights of Bretonnia coming in with an epic charge just right through that destruction and just doing a ton of damage. So the Lizardmen main line is just getting buckled by these Knights right here. You can see the Sword Spears are shaken. And the Peasants of Bretonnia, for once, are actually doing very well in the front line. So the Fey Enchantress is being targeted by Krok-Gar, so my opponent decided to stop fighting the Green Knight, which is definitely a good idea. He uses the Swiftness of Itzel to get Krok-Gar to just be a race car, basically, as 102 speed. And now he's going to be chasing down the Fey Enchantress, who's also very quick. She does have, well, she's poisoned, so I guess she only has 73 speed, which is a little bit scary. But Krok-Gar looks like he does get caught up on the mass of the Green Knight, some of these other Grail Knights, so he is going to be stuck in the main formation. Gary in the back actually doing a surprisingly good job against some of these Grail Knights here, but of course they are going to wear him down most likely. They have perfect Vigor, so they don't get tired. You can see the Bastillodon is also going to be very tired, and Vigor is very punishing. It lowers a lot of stats, so having those guys be immune is pretty good. You can see that single lance formation just charging right into that one Skink right there. He's just being like dragged, just look at he's just down there. Oh god, that's funny. But the Lizardmen main line, for the most part, is pretty much destroyed. I mean, they have some swords here, and this is one of the big things of why you want to bring these type of units. So these Spearmen, my opponent could have outmaneuvered, and he probably honestly just had them on skirmish mode and was so busy in the front line, but one group of like Spearmen or other like fodder units that have silver shields can just like mitigate Skinks so heavily. So I definitely think that's a must include in this type of a matchup here. So it looks like a Hand of the Gods coming in. It does pop the Fey Enchantress and does some pretty substantial damage. I do pop my Arcane Conduit trying to get some healing, but I am at my healing cap. I've had to regrowth myself twice because of this stupid Skink up in the air just shooting at me and trolling me. And poor Gary is gonna, well, hopefully he gets off the battlefield. Yeah, hopefully these Knights don't get him. I'd like to see him again. But here in the pits, there's a Feral Bastillodon still fighting. You can see Krok-Gar's in pretty good health, and despite the fact that it looks pretty bad for my opponent, the bounce power is pretty even. And that's because the Fey Enchantress is probably getting pretty close to going down. My Green Knight's pretty beat up as well. So, and Krok-Gar's on the hunt, guys. So Krok-Gar does escape the pact here. Not the pact. The pact is sealed. He escapes the pack. And the Green Knight is going to be on the hunt right here with his pretty solid AP. And how fast is the Green Knight? He is faster than Krok-Gar, but Krok-Gar does have the the speed acceleration. Man, look at him just take off right there. Like, he just burnt the Green Knight. But the Green Knight coming in, he does have the Favor of the Fae, so he has 100 melee attack, but unfortunately the Fey Enchantress is going to be taking an attack from this big angry dinosaur right here, but the Green Knight's hot in pursuit, and hopefully he'll get his acceleration there. He gets a good attack. You can also see the Knights of Bretonnia coming from the high ground to rescue their lady, and some of these foot squires are going to bravely charge in front of that dinosaur, which is definitely not a fun task. And it looks like the dinosaurs don't have anything else left on the ground. They do have some Sora Spears up on the high ground here. They also have a Skink Chief up in the air who's just poking the Fey Enchantress, and she must be pretty low. Did she actually die there? Where is she? Could have sworn she lived. Oh, there she is. But yeah, you can see she only has 800 HP. The Skink Chief still, after all this time, still has 30 ammunition. So he's just sitting there trolling me. I probably should have been moving, but I think I was microing something else. And the Green Knight actually does take down Krok-Gar, so I honestly think he might be a bit of a hidden gem in this matchup. He was really good, like terror routing things. He was good at hunting the AP monsters. And if they decide to turn and fight him, like it's going to take forever to kill him, especially if you have Lore of Life. So right now there's just a couple dino contingents left on the battlefield. There's some Sora Spears. The Skinks are just coming back from the Shadow Realm. Definitely a pretty substantial mistake there, letting those guys get chased off. Granted, I don't think it would have made a big difference because of all the Spearmen at Arms I had. I could have just screened them out fairly easily. And we're just basically hunting down the scraps. And you can see the Knights getting a bit of a side charge here, coming in Lance formation with a charge bonus of 102. Definitely very happy with that change, and it's still been taking me a while to really get used to using that, because it just used to be so punishing with that speed debuff. So they get a fat charge into the back of the dinos. The Knights are cleaning up. It looks like there's a third Lance formation coming in, perhaps a little bit of overkill, and the Fan Enchantress does go down to the Skink Chief sniping, and yeah, I think she's going to forever rest in the Chaos Waste, which definitely does not sound like fun. So from here, just kind of cleaning up the dinosaurs, you can see the Knights are going to be going after the Bastiladon. The good AP of the Green Knight really bringing a lot to the table this match. So very well played by my opponent. Definitely quite a fierce one. And yeah, I like that build actually. I thought it was quite fun. I mean, the Halberds are obviously, yeah, they're better than the Spearmen at Arms, but again, they don't have the shields. So if they have to like take Skink Fire, it's going to be really ugly. So I think that was, and again, if they don't bring Skinks, this wouldn't be as good. But Spearmen at Arms cost like what, 350? So I felt like it's a relatively kind of safe investment to go for. Green Knight was pretty good. Obviously, the Grail Knights are the MVPs here, and you know, against Saurus Warriors, like, even if like you're playing against like a Lizard Death Star, right? So it's using like Temple Guard and Saurus Warriors and then Spears on the flanks. You can still like cycle charge in the front line or do rear charges on Temple Guard or Spearmen or units like that that are engaged in melee. As long as you're hitting them in the back and they're not like braced for it, you're still going to get a massive boost in damage. Because Grail Knights just get such a fat, chubby charge bonus there. So it's definitely pretty powerful. So as far as my opponent's army goes, I like the Saurus Warriors. Skink Chief, good choice. Krokar. I mean, it's a pretty solid army. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of Chameleons. That might be the one thing I would cut here, as well as the Feral Bastiladon. I just feel like they're both a little bit subpar. The Chameleons, yeah, I guess they can poke flying units, but Bretonnia just has so many cheap chaff units and like Cav that can really kind of punish Skinks if you want to. So I feel like it's a little bit risky. The Bastiladon, although for 700 you're getting something in the front line that causes like fear and terror and a bunch of other stuff like that. So yeah, there is some give and take there. So well played to my opponent, Da Beast XX. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the Green Knight in action. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.